Now we're going to look at rhombuses and kites. So the area formula for a rhombus and a kite is 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So when we're looking at diagonals, we're looking from corner to corner, so both of the diagonals. So let's start with this first example. We want to find the area of this rhombus. So 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So if we look at our diagonals, here is our first diagonal, and it's 9 and 9. So that whole diagonal is 18. And the other diagonal, from corner to corner, includes 13.5 and 13.5. And 13.5 plus 13.5 is 27. So if we multiply these out, 1/2 times 18 times 27 is 243 meters squared. So let's look at the next example. Area of this rhombus, area equals 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. We already know one diagonal. We know it's going to be 16 from A to C. So area equals 1/2 times 16. So now we just need to find what the other one is. So if we take a look, we are missing this diagonal. Now in the rhombus, remember a rhombus, the diagonals bisect each other. So this, if the whole thing was 16, we know that this chunk is 8, and this side is also 8. So those two segments are 8. So if we just take a look, we can pull out this triangle. So if I just pull it out, so I'm only looking at that. You know, our right angle was in here. We know this side length is 8, and this is 29. So what we're missing is this segment of our rhombus right here. So if we have two side lengths of a right triangle, but we're missing the third, that's where we can use our Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem says if we square all of our sides and add them, the two legs together, they're going to equal the hypotenuse squared. So we have 8 squared, which is 64. 29 squared is 841. So then 841, we want x squared by itself, so if we subtract both sides by 64, x squared equals 777. So then our last step would be to square root both sides. So x equals 27.9, because we want it to the nearest tenth. So that means this chunk is 27, segment, so 27.9. This segment is also 27.9. So to get the whole diagonal, we have to add them together, which is 55.8. So now we can finish multiplying. 1/2 times 16 times 55.8 is 446 4/10 units squared. Let's look at our last example. One thing we need to change is right here it did say AC equals 48. I want you to change it so it says BD is 48. So let's fill in what we know. We know from BD this diagonal is 48. We know that AB is 25 and BC is 26. So what we're missing is we're missing the diagonal from A to C. So if we write out our formula, area equals 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. We already know one diagonal from B to D, it's 48. So now we just have to find the second diagonal. So if we take a look, remember in a kite, our diagonals bisect one of them, and that one is this 48. So if this side, the whole thing is 48, that means this chunk is being cut in half. So we have two segments that are 24. So if we take and pull out this triangle, we end up with the 25, 24, and our right angle is here. So we're missing this side length. So like we did in the last problem, we need to find that side length by using the Pythagorean theorem. So we know we can take both of our legs, the 24 and the x, and square them, add them together, and they should equal the hypotenuse squared. So 24 squared is 576 plus x squared And that equals 25 squared, which is 625. So then we need to subtract both sides so we can get the x squared by itself. So 625, and we subtract that from 576, we get 49. So the last step would be to square root both sides, so x equals 7. So we know this side length is 7, so this segment of our kite is 7. So now we have to find the other side. And since the kite, we know these two aren't going to be equal to each other. It's only in a rhombus where they both are. So now we can look and we can pull out the other triangle. So now we have this triangle on this side. So if I rewrite that, no, this is 26, this part's 24, and our 90 degree is in here. So once again, we take our legs and we square them to 24 squared. This is our missing one. And it equals our hypotenuse squared. So 24 squared is 576 plus x squared, and 26 squared is 676. So when we subtract both sides by 576, x squared equals 100. So then our last step would be to square root both sides. So now this length is 10, so that means in here, that side length is 10. So the whole diagonal from A to C is 7 plus 10, which is 17. So now we can finish finding our area. So 1/2 times 48 times 17 will give us 408 centimeters squared.